This is the Economic and Community Development. It was today, August 3rd, 2021. To take up ordinance 1921, which proposes zoning change in 2 parcels along Fulton Street and along East 3rd Street. We'll have some public comment if anyone wants to provide, and then I have some comments we'll hear from the rest of the committee, which right now is just Pat Hovis. Roseanne Hickman is also on the committee, absent. And any voting members of council that happen to be here, I'd ask you to keep all your remarks and comments and any gestures to yourself. We can discuss that next week when the council takes up the ordinance for its 3rd reading. So, with that, are there any public comments on the ordinance?
Barb Ritter, 520 East 2nd Street.
No, I just signed it in case I had any questions about what you guys were going to say.
Okay.
You guys already know my opinion, right?
Yeah, I remember you.
So, sorry. I'm not trying to be.
We let you in, so.
The sirens didn't go
There's
off.
no picture you want to.
But I don't have anything
Standing
to
by.
say.
Pam Hatfield, 508 East 2nd.
I'm pretty much the same. I put my name on there just in case I had questions.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And just raise your hand or politely shout my name if you have any comments or questions on what we talked about. I'm happy to recognize you. Okay. With no time limit, how about that? Mrs. Hovis, anything from you to start? Or no?
No.
Okay. Mr. Colston, anything from you?
Just there.
And I'll read my script that I prepared, and it involves the July 13th public hearing on the ordinance. That was a public hearing held before the council meeting where the ordinance had its first of 3 scheduled readings. And everyone will recall we had the 2nd reading last week, and then the 3rd reading is scheduled next Tuesday, August 10th, during the regular council meeting scheduled at 6 o'clock here in the council chambers. So I want to address some of the comments that were made at the public hearing. I watched the video after. I was unable to attend, except at the very end. I was standing in the back, and I heard some of the comments. But as we were reviewing the recording, there was a comment made that Fulton Street parking was already reduced to address congestion along that route in the past, and the rezoning will further promote congestion, and that will slow emergency vehicles. As I thought about that, my response to me appears to be that that example given indicates that traffic congestion mitigation efforts were taken before, and therefore we could simply do that again in a smart way in the future if at all warranted. Do you agree with that?
I would agree.
Mr. Colston, thank you. Any comments or questions on that?
You're stating that you're going to have that reevaluated traffic pattern wise. Is that what I'm understanding?
Do you think that would be part of the next step in the process if the ordinance is passed? Any site plan of significance like this that would go before the planning commission, traffic studies or other analogous investigation?
Yeah, and I want to see the plan to see where they're talking coming in and out. Is it coming more off of 3rd Street out of the alley? And that helps alleviate some of the concern with the traffic light there. It may be a little slower, I get that, but it would be safer too. So that's where the planning, until I see a site plan, I can't really comment on what their thought process is when that happens.
Later comment at the public hearing was that the intersection is already a mess. People running the stop sign at East 3rd and Washington, running the traffic lights. I think the city's, at least my response, and probably the committee's response, would be that drivers ignoring stop signs and traffic lights, while very dangerous, has no linkage to these parcels or any of the neighboring parcels and how those are zoned. Those are drivers. That's not a direct result of any zoning in the area, in my opinion. So I inquired with the police department on traffic incidents in this area of town. Citywide, the police department told me they average responses to crashes, an average of 90 to 100 crashes of various types and severity per year, maxing out at around 114. In the 200 to 400 blocks of Fulton Street, which I think is what most people are concerned with, at least 2019, there were 6, and just 2 of those involved what the police department describes as injuries, which I assume means bodily harm as opposed to personal property harm. Going back further to 2016, the number was 3. So I asked, does the police department find there to be a disproportionate number of crashes along Fulton Street, the 200 to 400 block, compared to other notable corridors in the city? And the response I received was no. I do have some printouts showing year by year locations of these crashes that the police department reports. I can just go through the numbers. 2016, the top line was 3. 2017, it was 5. 2018, it was 4. 2019, it was 6. 2020, it was 6. And to date, this year in 2021, the total is 4. And all of those involved no personal injury. And the police department also noted that those numbers can include large trucks, including semi-trucks, getting stuck at the underpass for the railroad. So not all of those figures likely involve personal automobiles. A later comment at the public hearing was, please do a study on traffic flow. Mrs. Hatfield, that might have actually been you, and what I had prepared to say here was that I'm sure the traffic study or other analysis would certainly take place when it comes to the planning commission once a final plan is approved or presented for approval. Another comment was that there are so many vacant businesses downtown, why not direct them downtown? My response would be that the city has already taken steps to attract and incentivize commercial businesses to locate downtown. It's happening. But at the same time, new businesses and business expansions are occurring across the city, but most notably along the East Perry Street corridor through the city limits. I think that balanced commercial development is important. And I heard of nobody recommending that the city take steps to restrict those commercial businesses, say the Fairfield Inn, the new Fairfield Inn construction, or the Jolly Roger project, that the city should actively restrict them to only do that project downtown. So that's something the city has not historically done. We provide incentives, but not mandates in that way. Zoning is one, however, that the council can't control. There was also a comment about the sewer systems, that the sewer systems are probably not capable of supporting a large apartment building. So while the site plans for those properties are not finalized and approved, the city is implementing, we all know, a water and sewer infrastructure improvement project that will benefit property owners and residents, likely address capacity issues citywide. And I would also note the recent Shepherd's Crossing project, maybe not so recent now, 5 years ago, I think, along South Jefferson, past East 12th Street,
12th Street.
was a large commercial project with water and sewer flowing there today where there was no infrastructure. So it can't be done, in my opinion. There was one comment that adding any more traffic would be bad. There's not enough space to add more businesses or anything else. R3 can be handled, the current zoning designation, medium density residential zoning, but nothing more, no. And I think if you follow that out to its logical conclusion, it suggests that the city should actively block anything that might produce more traffic along that corridor on Fulton Street, for example, and not just at those specific properties like the Treasure Shop. And certainly we can all agree that Fulton Street traffic patterns are a result of multiple properties, not just right there at the 200 to 400 block near the railroad overpass, but attributable to individual properties along that block and beyond. So should we take steps to block or slow expansion at the industrial park off South Railroad Street, for example, or anything that could lead to more people wanting to visit or needing to visit Magruder? Or should we take steps to limit customers at Bell and Ellis, because that's contributing, their expansion over the years have brought in more customers, right, Mr. Colston? Right. Or past Party Mart or masonry construction. So there's a whole bunch that goes into the traffic pattern right there. And I don't think we should take any steps to say stop the Treasure Shop from reopening time and having a steady customer flow in and out. I'd love that to happen. It hasn't happened in so many years. But if you follow that argument that adding any more traffic there would be bad, I think that would take us down a path that the city hasn't, or probably should take. The city has never had that posture towards any particular intersection or corridor in the city. It seems like pretty aggressive interference to me. We should put up an arbitrary, we're at capacity along this stretch of road, this stretch of residential or commercial neighborhood. A neighborhood that most of it is already zoned general business or GP. They just happen to have houses on them. And that's because the property owners there made decisions about how to best manage their own property. And just like the current owner of the treasure shop, and I counted when you look at the map, I'm sure we've all seen it, the zoning map for the city of Fort Clinton, I count 18 properties at that intersection already zoned general business, which is what the ordinance would seek to change on the zoning map for 2 properties into general business. On the claim that R3 can be handled but nothing more, I would question on what basis that claim was made, because the current R3 zoning allows up to 2 family dwellings on those 2 properties, total 1 each, 2 and 2. But the general business zoning permits no residential use except if granted a special use permit by the planning commission. We talked about that, I think that came up at the public hearing initially, so I just wanted to clarify that. So that means that the general business designation would, if all else is held equal, actually reduce the number of families and residents that live there on those 2 properties. Constructing multifamily dwellings or apartments or condos would require the special use permit, and that process includes several criteria the applicant would need to satisfy. Commercial use, businesses like stores, restaurants, and some offices would be the only use permitted solely by the proposed zoning change to GP. Anything further would require additional approval from the planning commission. I'll stop there if there are any comments or questions. Seeing none. Yeah.
You guys look perplexed a little bit. Did you see the map where it's all the general businesses? Have you seen that map?
No, and I was wondering how 18 pieces of property at one intersection has.
Can I show them or give them that?
Yeah, I can actually, let me show you the actual map here. It's a little cleaner, I think. Do you mind if I come and show you the
Sure,
screen?
that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, because I'm like counting properties, and I've been on the auditor's website, clicked on them all.
So it's the purple here.
Okay.
Down here, just for residential drive, that's where the city goes.
Okay.
So Belmont would be here. Jason Carver, actually, this might be the Belmont.
Right.
But that continues here, including Pat's and the neighboring houses along East Third. All of that subblock. Most of the subblock except for one subject parcel here. And then this.
They're pushing that further east.
There's only
The
2
one
in that
parcel.
whole area
Just ask
that
them.
are not in the general business. It's 2 we're talking about. Every single other one, and across the street is all general business, which I don't think anybody, that you guys knew that.
Well, I knew that because, like I said, I will investigate it, so I've always clicked on all these over here. And because there used to be a beauty shop over there, you know, and the nostalgic place back in the day.
Just for clarification, if we don't mind. If the auditor's website and our zoning do not match all the time, the city has their own zoning and the county has their own. It does not match.
Look at the zoning map on your city
city-
website.
Our city website is what we're going by, not the county, because you said you clicked it. So I'm
Right.
making sure you weren't going to the residential parcels. The parcels on the auditor's site. 'Cause they
Okay.
don't match our zoning. Because that's based on their tax
There is-
base, not on what it actually is zoned.
Okay.
So my point of subject of the ordinance doesn't seem to be a grand departure for that particular intersection and neighborhood. Being that general business has existed there for quite a while, yes, it's been primarily Bell's, the old Webb's Barn, and whatever that may become, and Pat's Party Mart, but the property owners there and where there are houses now do have the ability to change and start a business there that would probably increase some traffic. Not that it wouldn't be manageable, but because if you're concerned about risk, I would say for anybody concerned about risk on what general business would mean, there's plenty of other parcels there that could today, pending simple site approval from the planning commission, could be developed any number of ways, and it's really the result of the individual property owners making a decision. Like the current owner of the treasure shop, who I believe is A. Gagnon, maybe Mrs. Gagnon, who I remember from working at Portland Junior High School back when I was there many, many years ago. But there's obviously no requirement placed on any of the property owners. So the Ohio Revised Code and the city's codified owner ordinances provides the city council may amend the zoning map for several reasons, including promoting prosperity and general welfare, that's a quote, as well as good zoning practices, among other reasons. So I find the proposed zoning changes to be consistent with the existing zoning in the neighborhood and an acceptable extension of the existing general business district along Fulton and East 3rd Streets. I feel that the potential for new commercial businesses and the rejuvenation along that corridor alone is a worthwhile endeavor, apart from any residential elements being considered in the future. So while no plans are final or approved, the zoning change recommendation to GB itself appears to be in order, and I find it to promote the general welfare by encouraging economic development. Furthermore, it aligns with the adjacent zoning that has been on the books for many years without significant incident or disagreement. I trust that any of the issues related to traffic can be addressed by the city in the future as needed and has been done in the past. And I would encourage neighbors and residents to work with City Hall to see that any needed traffic improvements are carefully considered and addressed both now, which is most important in my mind, and in the future, should a specific project become a reality there. And our committee, I'm sure, will work with anybody on that important topic. But the zoning change in and of itself, I do not find to be a detriment to public safety. Council is to consider and act upon the zoning change alone. That's from the law director, and I think she mentioned that at the public hearing. And I have no reason to disagree with that recommendation. With general business, the baseline is commercial use. Business is a little bit more of what has been there and what is there now. Remember, this is just 2 parcels, and a zoning change to GB guarantees nothing other than the opportunity to put forth a site plan for the owned properties only for further review by the planning commission. So I don't see a compelling justification to close that door at this time. Whether or not the neighbors sell is their own decision and outside the jurisdiction of this committee. And I'll stop there for any comments or questions. This is Opus.
I mean, just looking at this map and seeing that everywhere around those parcels is already GB, which I didn't know before. I didn't realize all these houses along in there, that property was zoned already as GB, so it's like, I mean, it's 2 parcels that are only 2 parcels that are R3. So this really was an eye-opener for me. So.
Any comments or questions from the audience? Mrs. Heffer.
I'm a little concerned that we have apartments on each end of town that are lower income, there are drug dealings, there is overdose same thing's going on there. Now, what I'm really concerned about is putting this 3-story building here in the middle of all these nice homes and family homes with small children around, and the same thing happening. You know, you have small children all over. You have, and if they're gonna do the 3-story low income, dealing drugs, guns, that's bringing it closer to the very wealthy homes on Perry Street even. That's a quick place to sit and just weasel through properties and start scoping it out and stealing things. I know I'm way, I think,
Yeah.
ahead of the game.
I didn't know that there was a crime problem, for example, at Shepherd's Crossing. That's the name of the newer development that I
The newer
referenced earlier.
development. I just
Do
know
you have
there's
evidence of that?
huge drug dealings going on there.
Do you have evidence of that?
I do not, no, but I know.
Then
the
what should I be
police-
going on?
I know the police sit around there a lot. Just hearsay is what I'm hearing from other people.
Mr. Ritter?
I do have a question.
Yeah.
More of a request. If you guys have not driven through there on a Sunday morning, you might want to drive through there this Sunday. You can't get through because of the parking over there. And parking is one of our issues. But it's impossible to drive through there, at least in my car, on Sunday morning, in the Shepherd's Crossing area. And there's nowhere to turn around. I
On
was-
the, just to clarify, you're talking down at the end of Jefferson Street in the...
Yes, yes. In the new area, I was thinking I could cut through the mess down there, and I got mixed up in it, and area, like pulling the streets driving, and you can't get through around the curves. It's all just tight, and people, I'm sure they must have at least 2 parking spaces because of garage and street, or in driveway, but people are in the street, at least, whatever, last weekend they were. But I think that that's just from talking to people in the neighborhood. That's a common occurrence. Just, I know that parking is one of our issues. I think it still will be, but just a heads up to drive through there. I don't know if they. I'm done, sorry.
I would note, what I recall from watching the original zoning hearing at the planning commission was, the company's name. The agent for the company, Lakeshore Club, indicated when asked that there is no plans for low-income housing. Not that that has any impact on my vote here today, because, like I said in my comments earlier, it's about the final plan more than the zoning change. Now it's the zoning change that sets the rules of how any development may happen, whether residential or not. So I'll just repeat for the record that they've indicated that that's not their plan for whatever they intend to do, assuming they get assuming they acquire the outstanding properties that they included in some of their preliminary rules.
Sorry, I wasn't saying that because it's low income housing, I was just
No,
saying.
she was.
Because it's a big housing development.
At the public hearing, I remember someone asking, or someone, I don't remember if it was you, Mrs. Hatfield, but someone made a point to say, this doesn't have to do with anything low-income housing. This is about safety, i.e. excessive traffic and congestion, crosswalks and making a left-hand turn. So I'm surprised to hear now that there's a concern from you about affordable housing in that particular
I had
area.
that concern initially, but I did not use those words because some people get a little unhappy about using those words. You know, it's just there is so much low income. It's on each end of town. We're gonna now put it in the center of the town.
You're Your specific problem is what then?
I'm just,
The residents who live in those
the
affordable
residents that
units
will
do
be
what?
probably living in those units.
But they do what that causes you such great concern? I don't,
Just, if it's gonna be low income, it's pretty much gonna be free living, and they're going to be searching things out.
you said they're gonna be easily going through people's property and
Oh, yeah,
stealing things?
you know, it's dark, it'll be easy
It's,
to
man,
run
it's
around.
dark everywhere. Oh.
Yes, it is, yes, it is. And they,
Strongly disagree with what you're saying. I beg you to bring any evidence of the claims you made on, you keep saying the East End or West End, both sides of town, now it's coming to the beginning, or your claims about Shepherd's Crossing. I'm happy to look at it, just like I looked and found for myself the information on traffic in that particular corridor that you and others were concerned about.
Right.
The police department indicates that there's not a disproportionate concentration of crashes, let alone any serious crashes, there compared to anywhere else in the city, like Perry Street, like Fremont Road going onto Harrison, that curve there, or the curve going across the drawbridge. So I have you look over any evidence you want to provide, but if you're just going to make a claim based on hearsay, rumor, and your gut feeling, for
No,
me, that's not going to
it's-
cut it. And I would hope that you'd expect me not to accept
well, I'm
it
just
on your gut
making
feeling.
comments. I am not ATF, so they would have to be the ones that would be involved with that situation.
Alcohol, tobacco, and firearms?
Yeah. They would, you know, there's that much
You're
going
asking
on.
me, you're encouraging us to bring in a federal agency to look at this to determine a zoning issue?
No, oh, no. No. I'm saying I'm not going to state where I hear these things from. For all the things. I mean, you can listen. It's very concerning about what goes in there. Bottom line.
So what I would recommend to you and others is that if the ordinance is approved, any continuing concerns about residential development, which is on top of what we're acting on today, just the general business as outlined in the ordinance, any further concerns about residential development, whatever terms you want to use to describe it, that's really best addressed with the planning commission in the future, because they'll be determining if it's approved in the ordinance, what the site plan ultimately is and how that's executed. And so as a reminder, the members of the planning commission are Mayor Mike Snyder, Jeff Morgan, Philip Bolte, Lois Evans, and City Safety Service Director Tracy Colston. And frankly, that's the group that brought us here in the first place.
Right.
So I would encourage you, especially if you have additional concerns, assuming it's passed, who knows what will happen. I'm about to ask for a motion to recommend approval at the council meeting. Anything related to residential, I urge you to take that up with the planning commission, because the residential piece would be outside of certainly this committee's jurisdiction and the committee's council's authority granted by the Ohio Revised Code.
Thank you.
And so residents can write or call the planning commission directly through the commission secretary, Mrs. Ostheimer here, Sandy Ostheimer, or the zoning inspector, Todd Bigley. Phone and email for both are available on this website. Any other discussion? Seeing none, I would ask for a motion to recommend council adopt ordinance 1921. Is there such a motion?
I will make a motion.
Motion from Mrs. Hovis, and I will second. Any discussion on the motion? Any discussion from members of the audience? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Hovis? Yes. Trujillo?
Yes. Thank you. 2, 4, and none against. The motion carries. We'll make that recommendation at the council meeting August 10th